Creator JG Quintel has done it again. The mastermind behind Regular Show has created a new, more mature cartoon called Close Enough. After years of floating around in limbo as a show that was constantly coming soon, HBO Max has finally given the show the platform and support Regular Show fans have been craving. But does Quintel's new series live up to the legacy left behind by Mordecia and Rigby? I'm Whitney Van Laningham, and today I'm reviewing Close Enough.
Oh, yeah.
Before we get started, I want to give a shout out to our super nerd sponsor of the day, John Carmack. Thanks so much for supporting us on Patreon. We're also excited to announce that Nerdwire is partnering with our sister brands, The Fumble and Holly Scoop, in a fundraising campaign for the Equal Justice Initiative. The EJI is an incredible nonprofit organization that provides legal aid and assistance to those who need it most. There's a link below where you can donate directly to them. I'll fill you in with more details at the end of the video. Now, on to Close Enough. If you haven't watched Close Enough on HBO Max yet, don't worry. This is a spoiler-light review. But if you consider character motivations or any promotional material already out there on the interwebs spoilers, here's your warning. Alright, let's get the comparisons to Regular Show out of the way. Like I mentioned earlier, this is JG Quintel's newest project, so of course it feels a tad reminiscent of his previous show. Obviously, there's the animation. Although there are far fewer talking animals and inanimate objects than in Regular Show, the human character designs are pretty much the same. These guys like their people to have long, cucumbery noses, thin lips, wide mouths, buggy eyes, and close-cropped crotches with long legs. Plus, the main character Josh was clearly modeled after Quintel himself. Physical comedy is a huge part of Close Enough, and it's definitely similar to the body humor in Regular Show. For example, at one point, roommate Alex falls off a building, and the physics of it reminded me so much of Muscle Man whenever he bites it. They also mess around with strong body features, like man boobs and abs, in the same way the Regular Show did. Other than the obvious things like their writing, humor, and character design, however, these shows have different vibes. Close Enough is a more grown show all around. Not only because it's JGQ's second creation, but because the subject matter deals with more adult scenarios. That's not to say you should expect it to be dark and broody. It's still a light fare, and Close Enough is a coming-of-age comedy about the responsibilities of entering parenthood and exiting your 20s. If Regular Show was akin to Drake and Josh, Close Enough is mad about you with cartoon explosions. Yes, I know that that's a dated reference, I just can't for the life of me think of a successful modern sitcom with a Bonnie and Clyde married couple at the center of its plot. It helps that CE is on a streaming service instead of a TV network. Although it was originally created for TBS, they ended up moving the show to HBO Max after a series of complications with sharing a release block with the canceled Louis C.K. cartoon The Cops, and then the AT&T merger rose to further kick the can down the road. Being exclusive to streaming means that if you like the dirty jokes in Regular Show, you are going to love the plethora of sex, drugs, and cool moms they got to include in Close Enough. I will say at times it felt as though the blue comedy bits were tacked on and unnecessary, as if the writers were justifying the show's R rating, but this was rare, and ultimately it's overshadowed by the gut-busting laughs of the adult jokes that do land. Another quick criticism to get out of the way is one with HBO Max itself. There were plenty of times during my watch-through where the audio would desync. This could be remedied by refreshing the app, but it definitely hampers the viewing experience and does a disservice to the long-awaited series. Hopefully this will be fixed soon, but if you experience streaming oddities, you're not alone. Back to the show. Close Enough tells the story of Josh, Emily, and Candace Ramirez, a parent-child trio living in Los Feliz, California, aka off the 101 around East Hollywood. Their roommates are a divorced couple, Alex and Bridget, who have a very confusing love-hate relationship. Where RS brought us problems like standing up to your dad about a mini-golf championship, Close Enough's drama is aimed more at the millennial 30-something crowd. Not to say that you can't watch it if you're in your teens or 20s. You should. I never thought that I'd wake up and be almost 30, but here we are. And so are Josh and Emily. Like most millennials, Josh and Emily can't afford their own house, which is why Josh's buddy Alex moved in. Emily dreams of owning her own home with enough space for her family. And although she and Josh have jobs, they're definitely not making enough to have the kind of life the boomer generation got to have. While Emily's an assistant at a food company, Josh works at a Best Buy knockoff to make ends meet for Candace. They also both have their passion projects, balancing their pie-in-the-sky dream job hustle with everything else. Most of the plots in each episode revolve around anxiety about finances, Candace's school, getting older but not feeling any older, and a buttload of other revelations that start to hit you when you reach a second decade of adulthood. But despite the normcore slice-of-life storytelling, the show is packed with action and adventure. Because while every episode premise centers around a normal adult problem, shenanigans ensue when things start to get wacky. Borrowing that LOL so random humor from regular show, Close Enough blurs the line between realistic and surreal. One minute, Josh and Emily are trying to get sexy while paying their taxes, and the next minute, one of Josh's video game characters comes to life and pressures him into reliving his youth. Each character experiences the push and pull of having responsibilities, but still feeling like a kid inside, and ultimately that's what makes the show so relatable. Realistically, feeding sugar to a child doesn't make them into The Exorcist, but it sure does feel as though you've unleashed a demonic entity when you do. Obviously, all comedy relies on heightened scenarios, but thanks to being animated, Close Enough is really able to push the pedal through the floor on exaggeration while retaining emotional realism. This is probably the reason why I can't think of an accurate comparable live-action sitcom about young parents. You just can't twist the neck of a child actor around, but you can in animation, so you get stories that explore scenarios that are usually only tackled with the boring lens of a parental subplot in an ABC sitcom. Yeah, I'm throwing down, Modern Family. Just try to bludgeon me with one of your zillion Emmys. I must admit, it was a little jarring to hear Mordecai's voice coming out of Josh's body at first, but after an episode or two, you get used to it. Josh is a great dad and husband, but the word great doesn't even begin to cover it. He's the kind of husband who will take you on a romantic vacation to the backyard when life gets busy, and the kind of dad who would get sliced in the ass just to teach his daughter how to skateboard. He's a dedicated family man who works hard, even when he's delivering TVs late at night to sketchy people. Chamomile cannot be a cheap school for Candace to go to. Any school with a white man bun hippie teaching kindergarten is bougie AF. Gabrielle Walsh plays Emily, mom to Candace and wife to Josh. Like Josh, she's a hardcore on-board parent. From scrambling to find the supplies for Candace's school art project to working late for an overbearing boss, Emily is basically a supermom. Homegirl barely has time to chill out and find a relaxing hobby between dealing with Bridget and Alex, co-parenting with Josh, and taking care of Candace. Like most young moms, Emily doesn't quite know how to separate her mommy time from time with her friends. But that's life. When you have a kid, you can't stay out at a dance club all night. The real magic comes from Emily and Josh's relationship, because holy wow, y'all, this is the kind of relationship I want to have in the future. Even though they don't go out and rage all night, and even if they're not the most on top of things when it comes to Candace's schooling, they're completely on the same page in every way. They bang a lot. Well, by married couple standards, and they always have each other's backs when it's time for the episode to shift into adventure mode. Emily and Josh love each other, communicate in a healthy way, and constantly work to keep a sense of romance and playfulness in their relationship. They kind of remind me a little bit of Parks and Rec's April and Andy. Or Bob and Linda Belcher, if Bob wasn't a grump and if Linda got her head out of clouds. Candace is played by Jessie DeSico, who Nerdwire fans will recognize as the voice of Lynn Loud from Loud House and Flame Princess from Adventure Time. She's a typical 5-year-old. She loves hanging out with her retired detective landlord, skateboarding, and spending time with her mom and dad. And okay, please don't take this the wrong way, but I love that even though she's supposed to be an adorable kindergartner, her character design is pretty average for a cartoon. While other shows try to make little girls look super cute and delicate, Candace just kind of looks like a regular kid. She's also not the brightest crayon in the box, but her street smarts kick in when she needs them the most. Kimiko Glenn voices Bridget, a social media influencer and Alex's ex-wife. My favorite role she's ever played was Penny Parker from Into the Spider-Verse, but you'll also know her from Orange is the New Black. Bridget is honestly pretty shallow, but like in a fun way. She's the opposite kind of adult than Emily and Josh. Where they get into their snuggies to watch TV at night, Bridget is out on the town making new content for her Instagram. It's kind of hard to believe that she was ever married to Alex because she's so self-involved, but whenever they have a moment together, I can kind of see it. Her and Alex have nowhere near the kind of relationship that Josh and Emily have, and not having any kids of their own makes it hard for her to understand the struggles of two working parents. But her job as Emily's best friend is to pull her out of mommy mode every once in a while and remind her to do fun things just for herself. The standout star in this series is Jason Mandzukic, who delivers a flawless performance as Alex, a college professor and divorcee. Alex is very Jason Mandzukic. Like the other characters Mandzukic plays, Jay on Big Mouth, Derek Hofstetler on The Good Place, or Adrian Pimento on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, to name a few, Alex is crass, loud, and fairly obnoxious. Gross is another word that comes to mind. No one but an animated Jason Mandzukic would teach a lecture on Greek mythology in a Borat onesie. His character is fun-loving and goofy, and definitely a tad immature. But when he wants to be serious, he will. He's incredibly dedicated to getting through to his college students, and he's also writing a book. I can totally see why he and Bridget divorced, though. He's not really the type to get obsessed with Instagram, and she's like way too hot and clean for him. This season is 8 episodes of 2 11-minute stories paired together like a traditional Cartoon Network series, except for the last episode, which uses the full 22-minute length. So really, that's like 15 episodes overall. You can totally binge this series in a night if you really want to. There's no real central serialized plot to the story besides the character's anxiety about being old. Unlike regular show, most episodes don't have a neatly wrapped message at the end. While learning how to be better friends was more navigatable for Mordecai and Rigby, sometimes parenting has no right answers. Sure, there's the classic trope of always be yourself strewn throughout the season, but I like that they don't slap you in the face with expert adulting advice. The truth is that being in your 30s is complicated. Not having a stable career is complicated. And being a parent is even more complicated. Close Enough is more of a set of guidelines than an actual roadmap, which helps in the relatability department. One of the coolest parts of this series is that the show is based in Los Angeles, so if you live here, you'll get a ton of visual Easter eggs. From the Griffith Observatory to the mural by the Los Feliz Theater on Vermont Avenue, anyone who knows LA will love the detail put into the accuracy of the show. I won't spoil all the LA Easter eggs for you, but there are tons. Plenty of times I found myself saying, I know that exact commercial building they're parodying! If you're not familiar with LA, you can always try to spot out all the regular show jokes hidden throughout the season. Oh, there's so many good ones, you guys! But I want you to feel the satisfaction of finding them on your own. So, is Close Enough worth the watch? I say hell yeah. This show might not resonate as hard with Zoomers as it does with millennials, but at least you'll be able to come up with more ways to roast the over 30 crowd on TikTok. If you like the random absurd humor of regular show, you'll love the surrealist comedy in Close Enough. And word on the street is that HBO Max has already signed on for a second season, so don't worry if you get addicted. There's more coming soon. Those are my thoughts on JG Quintel's new series, Close Enough, but I want to know what you guys think in the comments. And before we part, I'd once again like to ask you to join Nerdwire in our fundraiser for the Equal Justice Initiative. The Equal Justice Initiative is a nonprofit organization that provides legal representation to prisoners who may have been wrongly convicted of crimes, poor prisoners without effective representation, and others who may have been denied a fair trial. If you want to be a part of this movement, there's a donation link below where you can send donations directly to the fund. Anything helps, and we're so glad that we can share this awesome opportunity to donate with you guys. For more animation reviews, breakdowns, and essays like this one, like and subscribe to Nerdwire, and remember, never buy a foot massager from your child's homework robot.